If only you could hear the conversation that happened before this show gets going. Oh man, I think that 10 minutes is what you want to hear. Shane Bacon alongside Johnson Wagner and 2026 tastemaker of the golf world, Patrick McDonald. Fellas, we are wrapping up the West Coast, moving on to Florida. Patrick, I know you're kind of a Florida boy right now. A, how's the weather? B, how is Florida? And C, how excited are you to get golf over there in Florida?
Little chilly, honestly, right now. I think the high is only going to be 65 today, which is honestly awesome, in my opinion. Johnson's shaking his head like he wasn't just in Los Angeles for the last week. Like,
Yeah.
settle down over there.
You've been adding up the days, Johnson. I don't want to hear it from you.
Yeah, he goes Phoenix to Pebble to Riv, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, woe is me." I will say though, I'm pumped for the East Coast timeline. You know, I go to bed a little bit early, so these late nights on the West Coast have been tough for an old soul like me. So pumped for that, and pumped for golf to be back on the East Coast.
Johnson, I'm assuming that was a fun run for you. I mean, obviously joining a new team and obviously new responsibilities and jobs, but exciting events. I mean, I feel like Riv, I know the golf course didn't exactly play maybe the way we hoped it would play for the week, but I know you got a chance to tune in with Scotty a lot. I think you guys were kind of tag teaming that final group, at least on Sunday, maybe on Saturday as well, but an exciting few weeks for you on the West Coast.
It was incredible. I mean, I got to walk with Brooks Koepka at San Diego for 2 days. Scotty Scheffler on Sunday, both Phoenix and in Pebble. The shot he hit into 18 was just something special. He actually gave me a hard time Wednesday of LA. He said, "Well, you're officially a terrible golf broadcaster." And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?"
Oh, man.
He said, "The shot I hit into 18, I listened to it afterwards. You said it was low, must have been mishit." He was like, "It's the best shot I've ever hit." And I said, "Well, I've been walking with you for 36 holes, and I never saw anything come out of that cannon." He said, "Johnson, the wind was blowing 25 miles an hour off the left. I had to hit it low." And I was like, "Good point." I saw him later that day, and I kind of hung my head, and he's like, "Man, I'm just giving you a hard time. I wouldn't give you a hard time if I didn't like you." So it was incredible. And then walking with the final group both days at Riv with Dottie on Sunday split, and it was unbelievable. Rory McIlroy is playing some great golf. The West Coast swing is great, but I am very happy to be home.
Johnson, how is it when you guys are kind of splitting duties within the same group? I mean, you obviously have spotters. For people that don't know how the on-course works, you have somebody kind of up ahead that's getting the distance and typically writes, I don't know if you guys do Post-it notes, but they typically will write it down on something, hand it to you. You now have the number down in front of you, but now you've got somebody else walking. Are you keeping your distance from Dottie? Are you guys kind of teaming up on where to go, where to stand?
We're not teaming up on that at all. It's nice to get away. And there was also two World Feed walkers, Rich Beam and Amelia Duran, and they split the final group as well, plus a radio walker. So there was a lot of people inside the ropes, and it's interesting trying to find
Like an
your own
influencer
little
event.
to find your own nook to get away to be able to call the shot without having somebody else's audio coming over. But it was a great day, so much fun getting to call Rory all day Sunday and having the ease of just one person you have to deal with. You can really get into their head and their mind of how they're playing the golf course.
You know, Patrick, you and I chatted the other day after we'd done a CBS hit about Rory, and I talked to Andy Johnson on his podcast yesterday about the same thing. You know, Rory, I'd say, had his B minus C plus game for the week at Riviera. The putting stats, I feel like, were probably better than the way he actually rolled it. And somehow the guy finishes in a T second. I mean, I think we talk so much about Scotty and his ability to consistently be near the top of these leaderboards, but Rory's been doing it for what, 15, 16 years? I mean, we sleep on the longevity of some of these guys that have done it for this length of time.
I mean, he's been inside the top 15 of the OWGR pretty much his entire career at this point. It's absolutely ludicrous. And I think for Rory, what we saw this week was, super engaged Rory. And whenever he's engaged and whether he's really into it, I thought him saying early in the week to Golf Channel how he really wants to check off this one and Jack's as well, and how the player invitationals are just rising in importance on the PGA Tour calendar. Whenever he's in that type of mindset, Rory McIlroy is a dangerous man, and you saw it this week. The way he was flighting his driver, it was just so much fun to watch. I can't imagine watching that in person, Johnson, how he'd go like 140 in the air and then like 40 feet in another one. It was just really cool to watch, and I feel like those type of shot makers are almost a dying breed, and Rory kind of evolving into this type of player at this stage in his career is just something that's really cool to see.
Yeah, Johnson, it feels like he's adding pitches right now. I mean, he did that obviously with the wedges. You think about the way he played Pebble last season, kind of dialing back the wedges. A big part of Rory, I'd say mistakes early in his career was it's kind of one speed and one speed only. But he said he's been hitting this driver for a while. I don't remember ever seeing it come out of that window and it turning over. I mean, Tiger's in the booth shocked by some of those drives that Rory was hitting.
The one that really speaks to me, he hit a bad one on 12 on Sunday, but the one that speaks to me is on the very next hole on 13. He pulled it out after really sniping the one on 12, pulled this little low bullet driver out. I think it had an apex of 22 feet, and I'm standing about 50 yards in front of him. I'm up a little bit on a hill. I don't think it got to my head high. It was shocking. And then to have the confidence to pull that shot out on 18, which plays about 15 to 18 yards uphill. I mean, for a while, I think it was Friday, it looked like it was going to hit into the hillside, barely covers the fairway, and then runs 80 yards down there. It's just so fun to watch Rory play this way because he's just trying stuff for a few. You always feel like it's going to pay off down the road for him. I know he wanted to win Riviera, but major season's coming. He's defending at the Players, obviously Augusta. So that shot could be crucial at Sawgrass. There's a lot of tee shots I can see him playing that driver off at Sawgrass.
Yeah, it's a good point. I remember talking to a player a few years ago asking about, it was their first Masters, asking about preparing for certain shots, especially on that second nine. And they said they'd been working 6 months ahead of time in terms of certain tee shots that didn't quite fit maybe their golf swing or their eye, but they wanted to make sure they had some level of golf shot ready for the tee shot at 13 and maybe what you're trying to do off the tee there at 15. I mean, it's in these players' heads early in the season because they know they always get one crack a year at Augusta National. Patrick, we hadn't talked about the guy that won. That was very impressive, especially through 3 rounds. I mean, Jacob Bridgeman, 66, 64, 64. Easy to say he wins the golf tournament, basically Saturday night. I mean, he really didn't play great, didn't play bad, I'd say, on Sunday outside of one hole, but didn't have to. I mean, he basically put himself in a position to get it done through 3 rounds.
Thought it was a very professional, mature round from Bridgman on Sunday. Like you mentioned, didn't do anything flashy, but we talked about the drives from Rory. I thought Bridgman's ability to put the ball in the fairway consistently was huge for him. Obviously took a big step in terms of approach play, working with Scott Hamilton now. The putter has always been his bread and butter, but I thought when he needed to, he hit some really high-quality drives that allowed him to kind of lean on that newly found approach play. And there's just something about a good old Southern boy winning on the PGA Tour that I like. He's, he doesn't have the flashiest personality, doesn't have the flashiest game. When we think about youngsters, we're all talking about speed, speed, speed. I know I'm a victim of that as well, but this guy's been a stud for a while now. He showed it on the biggest stage on the PGA Tour schedule, non-major, non-players championship division, and he looked the greatest champion of this generation dead in the face and held him off. I know it wasn't a perfect final round, but it was an effective one and a very impressive one in my opinion.
Yeah, Johnson, I mean, obviously the putting's been his weapon, right? I mean, he talked about his collegiate days and said, I wasn't a very good player. I won those golf tournaments with my putter. The iron play has improved a lot this season. I texted you, the guy's gotten longer this season. I think he's hitting it 6 yards on average longer than he did last season. So obviously doing something in that department. I mean, these are not the longest level of golf courses when you're playing West Coast, Torrey, Pebble, places like that. Yet the average is up, and I'm assuming it's going to continue that way. I mean, you got a chance to see him up close and personal. What's it like kind of watching this guy go about his business, maybe especially in that Saturday round into Sunday? I mean, Saturday was impressive. Then Sunday, I mean, he still put the ball in the right position and didn't really have to take any chances.
Yep. Saturday was just a clinic. He was playing with Marco Penge, this young rookie from England that I thought was just going to blow his socks off that day. And Penge went one way and Bridgman went the other. I think he beat him by 10 shots, maybe 9 shots on that Saturday. His iron play was just time and time again, pin high, left himself in the proper spot, putting up the hill, which is crucial at Riviera. His putter's obviously brilliant, but on Sunday, he started off the same way, super aggressive, birdies on 1 and 3, and then 7. He hits this shot to a back left flag, carries it about 4 yards too far, goes over the green, and I think that's where we saw him take a little bit more of a conservative approach in that final round on Sunday because he was on absolute cruise control. I think at that point had a 7-stroke lead, and once once he made that bogey, you could see just a little bit of a switch between him and his caddy GW. They were just going to play it a little more safe, play it to the fat side of the green, play it underneath the hole on back pins, and that's exactly what he did. But who would have ever thought that he was going to have to make a 3.5-footer on 18 up the hill to avoid not only a playoff with Kurt Kitayama, but with Rory McIlroy sinking that heroic putt on 18 after missing everything all day. That's the putt he makes. And I think that roar that happened for Rory really sort of clinched up Jacob's grip pressure on that first lag putt.
Johnson, I was playing my first ever AJGA tournament years ago. I think it was in 2001. And I'd never had a bogey-free round in my life, like in any round. And I was bogey-free on 18 in Abilene, Texas. And I hit it about 20 feet. I'm walking up to the green. And you know the whole, like, count your chickens thing, right? You're like, oh, okay, here we go. And I remember I stubbed the putt and left it like 6 feet short. And it reminded, I kind of thought about that when Bridgeman did that. I'm like, of all the things he could do here, I mean, outside of blowing it 5 feet by, I couldn't imagine leaving that level of putt that short. I mean, that's the place you want to putt from, right, at Riv on 18?
Well, exactly where he hit it, and you would never think. I mean, just that's what happens when your grip pressure gets too tight, is you leave putts short. And I'm telling you, had Rory not made that putt, I think he cozies it up there to just a tap in 2-incher. But once that putt went in, it's the loudest roar I've ever heard in person. And once that putt went in, I think things completely changed in Jacob Bridgman's head and body.
Yeah, Patrick, great Rory quote, by the way, when he was asked after about the putt. I mean, just like, give me real Rory all the time. He doesn't do these level of quotes, I feel like, when he gets to major week. But when tournaments wrap up, I feel like he'll give you some fun. And I just love I'm glad the putt went in. It was $500,000.
Yeah, he definitely could use that money too with
I think he needed
successful his career is. I will say, I think the first 17 holes he made 29 feet worth of putts, and then the last hole was just about 29 feet as well. Kind of poetic justice there. But yeah, Bridgman kind of said on 16 when he wiped that iron, I felt like that was like his first real bad shot of the day. I agree with Johnson, the one on 7, bit of a misfire too, just a mistake. He couldn't feel his hands on the greens anymore. He felt full swing, he was fine. But on the greens, the guy, what he's known for, he just couldn't feel anything. He just let instinct take over. I would have been legitimately pooping my pants over that final putt if I was in that position.
He might have been, by the way.
Yeah.
With the effort he gave, I think.
Was he?
No, we're good on that. Thank goodness. Okay. Those things have kind of gone out of style, I feel like. I feel like there was a time a couple of years ago where every player was in the white pants. And luckily, I think that is we've moved past that. We'll say that.
Summer's coming.
As we move away from the West Coast. And before we do that, we're going to take a break, but come back and we're going to give out some awards. We're going to do player that was most impressive, maybe least impressive player, and somebody to look forward to the rest of the season. We're not going anywhere, so you shouldn't as well. We'll jump back after the break. Fellas, time to hand out some awards. Obviously, we're moving from the West Coast to the East Coast. Just a good reminder of the tournaments that have concluded this season on the PGA Tour. Goddard got the win at the Sony. Scotty, which it feels like a lifetime ago, got the win at the Amex. Justin Rose, big win at Farmers. Goddard again in Phoenix. Colin Morikawa up in Pebble. And then, of course, Jacob Bridgeman just won at Riviera. So we'll dive into some awards. We're going to start here with most likely to carry momentum on to Florida. So players that obviously had a very good season so far, and they're going to keep it rocking and rolling as they fly east. Patrick, who do you have in this category?
The Napster, Jake Knapp himself. Shout out to Northern Virginia's own Sean Parker, the creator of Napster back in the day. But this guy, if you look at the statistics, the last 3 months, you want to know who the second best player in the world in terms of total strokes gained is? Jake Knapp. This guy has been absolutely balling, doesn't have a finish outside the top 11, obviously from the West Coast. So always interesting to see how those guys transition to the East Coast. But quietly, a T12 at last year's Players' Championship, and I would not be surprised if Knapp factors in that tournament again this year. Just playing awesome, and really the putters come alive this season.
I mean, Patrick, you didn't have Napster, did you? That had to have been before your time, right?
I did not, no.
No. Were you like, do you have Kazaa? Like, what were you downloading with?
What did you just call me?
Well,
Kazaa?
that was the thing after Napster. That was kind of the bridge before you actually had to pay for music.
No, I was iPod Shuffle, the old white one. That was like kind of my
Golly,
first intro into music.
really depressing, man. Oh, golly, Napster shout out for sure. Johnson, you're a Napster guy. Who do you have is most likely to carry on the momentum?
Yeah, Napster and LimeWire, by the way, for me.
LimeWire.
I had a book of CDs in my car forever, driving back and forth from college. No cell phone.
You still have them, or did you toss them?
Oh, I still have them. They're in my closet right over there, but I have no way to play them. I don't own a CD player anymore, so I should.
Yeah, it'll come back though. They're going to come back at some point, like the records. You know that.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, I like the Jake Knapp pick. I was going to take that, but Patrick got on the Google sheet before I did. So I'm taking Pearson Coody. Really impressed by the way he played this whole, all fall, even through the summer on the Korn Ferry Tour and the PGA Tour. He's been playing great for a long time. Made 6 of 6 cuts, 5 of 6 top 25s, had highlighted by the T2 at the Farmers Insurance Open. I know it was a far cry from first with Justin Rose running away, but Pearson Coody, just like Jake Knapp, is poised for that win. It'd be Pearson's first, but yeah, Pearson Coody's right there.
I like both of those picks. I got Minwoo Lee to kind of keep it going, playing really, really solid this season. Stats are much better as well. Driving it great. It's top 12 on the PGA Tour off the tee. The putter has been really hot this season as well. He's played well at some golf courses I don't think necessarily fit his game, I think, which is something positive to look forward to as we get set for the rest of the season. I feel like he's a guy that I likely thinks he'll contend and potentially win one of those events as we get to Florida. So Minwoo Lee, I think, keeps that momentum going. How about somebody you don't think is going to play well? Maybe somebody that you've possibly seen play great so far this season, but you think will fall off. Johnson, I'll kick it to you.
Well, this person I thought was going to have I thought he was going to make the Ryder Cup team last year, got his second win in the fall of 24, Austin Eckroat. I've just been waiting for him to take that next step. He's currently sitting at 140th in the FedEx Cup, and he really struggles with the chipping and putting. And as much as I want to see him play well, I think he's going to continue to struggle for a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that as well. You got somebody, Patrick, that we have popped a lot early in the season that you think could potentially fall off.
I hated it. I will say one thing to keep an eye on in the Florida swing is OWGR rankings going into the Masters. Knapp right now, for example, not in the Masters, but number 43 in the official world golf ranking. So if he stays inside the top 50, obviously gets to play in that tournament. Ryo Hisasune is number 65 in the world. And as I was looking through his past starts, I'm like, oh, this guy's probably going to win the Valspar Championship based on how well he's playing. But just something about him. I told you guys my theory about the water and how potentially he could be using that as a level on the green. I'm not saying that he is doing that, but I'm saying the potential is there. So didn't play great at Genesis, mainly because of the putter. He's hitting the golf ball so great right now, but I just think maybe going into Florida with some different style of golf courses, he takes a little bit of a step back before winning the Valspar Championship.
Yeah, it was kind of saturated at ribs, so maybe that throws off like the leveling potentially, right? I mean, maybe when it's kind of soppy greens, maybe you don't quite get that right level. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on this. I mean, I love your putter take this year, and I'm really into this one. This is maybe your best take thus far of 2026. I got the Pock Eater boy. A lot of water in Florida, let me just say. And I know he's a great driver when he's hitting the fairways, but I think he can get a bit squirrely, and especially around the greens. This is a guy that has just got to improve around the greens. And you can either pitch or you can in Florida, and I think it could come back and bite him a bit. I hope to see him keep it going. It's been nice to see him play some consistent golf, but I could see him regress just a little bit as we move into the Florida swing. Fellas, the biggest winner on the West Coast swing. I think there's a couple of names that easily come to mind, Patrick, but you're not somebody that typically goes with like the most obvious pick.
Well, I was going to, but, Johnson blamed me for being in the Google sheet early. And then I think he went to this one just to beat me to the punch.
He swooped you on the middle. That's like picking like the $600 category in Jeopardy to start.
Kind of hit me with the Euro step, had me off balance. But I went with Colin Morikawa. I just think mentally a win for this guy can just carry him on into the rest of the season. And he's hitting golf courses now that he's played super well at, given Bay Hill. He easily could have won that event last year, probably should have. Players Championship seems tailor-made for him as well. And then going into Augusta National, where he has a great run of form, and someone who I know he hasn't won major championships in a little bit, but this is a guy who knows how to play major championship golf. He's shown up on that stage even without his A game, even without his mentals being in the best place possible. And it seems like right now we have that all going for Morikawa. So even as someone who's still maybe a little tepid on him, I think that win just did so much for him and really opens up the rest of his year.
Yeah, I don't have to think about when am I going to win again. I mean, I think that's a huge thing for these players that have been so close and have seen it come so easy, and now it's not so easy. There's a lot of names, by the way, I think that fit that mold right now in terms of once great players that are kind of waiting, seeing the days tick by since their last victory. Johnson, I mean, one of us has got to pick the guy. I mean, he wins twice, and he was incredible throughout the West Coast.
Yeah, Chris Goddard, just unbelievable. Starting the year with the win at the Sony Open, backing it up with great play the next few weeks, obviously picking up that second win in Phoenix. And, you know, last year when he won the Scottish Open, played with Rory, he backed it up with a nice Open Championship and continued to play well. But I think coming out early this year, not only winning once, but winning twice, he said, you know what, guys, I'm in this upper echelon of players now, and I think we're going to continue to see Chris rise. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him pick off a major or at least contend seriously late on a Sunday real soon.
Yeah, it feels like no holes in the game, man. He's just very, very impressive, and it feels like he can win kind of anywhere. You look at where he's contended and won, Johnson, to this point in his career, kind of different spots, different golf courses, different areas of the country as well. I think that's important. He is very impressive. Kind of one of those guys that just moved up every level very quickly, much like this guy. I mean, Jacob Bridgeman, for me, very consistent start to the season, obviously gets the win. I mean, I think a lot of JJ Spawn last year, you know, I mean, you have that kind of career-defining victory, and I think it kind of makes your season, no matter what Bridgman does the rest of the year, winning at Riviera, it's going to make 2026 a very special one in his mind and in his memory. And I just feel like it was great, not just with the win, but the consistency we saw from the guy. How about a biggest loser, Johnson? Somebody that you feel like just needs the West Coast to go away, needs to refresh, needs to pull a cartridge out and kind of blow into it and put it back in. Another reference that Patrick's not going to get.
Yeah, I kind of went the other way. The Nintendo cartridge, I got you there.
Yeah.
But I kind of went the other way. I kind of went the other way with this one. I think Siwoo Kim had so many great chances to win on the West Coast. The moments that you get playing in the final group with Scotty Scheffler at Amex, these moments you get to actually close the deal don't come around all that often. And for Siwoo, 3 straight weeks not to be able to close it, he's my biggest loser because I know he's had a great West Coast, but man, those opportunities are fleeting and you have to take advantage when you get them.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, again, you can go any way with this, and I think that's you know, it's important. I mean, you get so close to picking it off and you can't do it. You don't play great when you have the opportunity. And I mean, that can eat at you in a different way outside of having a really rough start to the year. Patrick, you went a little bit of a different direction as well.
I went with whatever the heck Scotty Scheffler's doing Wednesday night because it did not work there on the West Coast swing after the American Express. Number 1 in scoring average on the PGA Tour, still 116th in round 1. You just look at Thursday at Riviera too. He was last on that leaderboard somehow, and kind of pulling from the same strand as Johnson, where Scheffler would have had a really good chance to win these tournaments. He still had a really good chance to win these tournaments, and there was a lot of history on the line. He could have had the most wins at the WM Phoenix Open alongside someone like Arnie. We talked about how important a win at Pebble can be. Think about the Player Invitationals. Who has won all 3 of those? It's only Freddie Couples and Ernie Els. You can go back to Hale Irwin, too, when it was the Citrus Open, when Arnie hadn't hosted it yet. Sorry, I went deep yesterday on this for an article on CBSSports.com. But I know we all assume Scotty Scheffler is going to be back in the mix when it's the West Coast swing in 2027, but he had a real opportunity to make a little bit more history, it felt like, this season. Unfortunately, because of those starts, he wasn't able to.
Yeah, I kind of went more classical here. JJ Spawn, just a really rough start to the year. I mentioned his name a moment ago, had such a big year last year. How do you follow up like the greatest year of your career? Couple of miscuts, no finishes inside the top 40. Just a slow start to a guy that I'm assuming is having a small level of a hangover from last year after everything that came with the wins and the close call at the Players and obviously making a Ryder Cup. Like, those are big accomplishments. And the next year, you have to get back to square one. You got no points, no money, and where do you start? And how does it kind of go about? How do you go about your business? And it just hasn't been great for him. Biggest surprise, I'll go here quickly. I got the Scotty starts to the week a little bit like what you said, Patrick. I mean, this is something that he has dominated at. I think the last 3 years he's led the PGA Tour in terms of Thursday scoring average. For him to start these weeks the way he has, for him to be dead last at Riviera, you're like, who took over this guy's body? It's like the Monstars or something. And then all of a sudden he starts playing good on Friday and then really gets going on the weekend. But it's just weird. This guy didn't seem like he was capable of shooting 3 or 4 over par. And we've seen him kind of consistently put himself in that place. So that's been my biggest surprise. Johnson, I think you kind of went with a name I brought up earlier in terms of the surprise we've seen earlier this season.
Yeah, Jacob Bridgeman. I mean, in his second year on the PGA Tour, he finishes in the top 30. A lot of people would take a step back, maybe not quite work so hard. You sort of reach the top of the mountain without winning. And then for him this year, it was after Memphis when the greens were so firm that he decided, knowing he was going to be in all the major championships, he needed to get a spinnier golf ball to be able to compete on firm greens in the toughest conditions. So for him to make the changes that he's making, getting in the gym, getting with Scott Hamilton and work as hard as he has to get there, I don't think we're going to see Jacob Bridgeman go anywhere. He's almost got, and I'm sorry I'm going to do this, but he's almost got the Scotty Scheffler type work ethic where he is going to leave no stone unturned and he's going to get every single thing out of his game.
So that's the first time I've seen the Scotty comp to a new player. Scotty gets the Tiger comp a lot, but there you go, Mr. Bridgeman. You got the Scotty comp. Johnson Wagner throwing that out. Patrick, I like where you went here because I mentioned J.J. Spaun. We brought up Bridgeman, who's had a great year. Some of the guys last year that played excellent throughout 2025, kind of slow starts to what we've seen this season.
We're kind of running a 3-man weave right now, kind of just handing it off to each other. But for me, I'm surprised by the slow starts from J.J. Spaun and Ben Griffin, those two clear breakout guys from 2025. I think one top 20 between them. Griffin finished T19 at the Sony Open. Funny enough, J.J. Spaun, ahead of Riviera, said that the USGA asked for a club of his for the U.S. Open win, and they wanted his putter, but he ended up giving him the driver because he thought he was putting so well still. And you look at his numbers, and it has been putrid on the greens for J.J. Spaun so far.
Send it to the museum.
Yeah, give it to the USGA, J.J. Get a different lab in the bag. But I honestly thought these guys had some real staying power atop, the top 20 in the official world golf ranking. Still there, obviously, but slow starts to the season. Maybe the switch to Florida will help. I think this time last year, Griffin was playing every single tournament on the PGA Tour calendar, trying to get into the Masters. Little bit of a different schedule to get used to too. So I wouldn't expect them to be in this lull forever, but still surprised about their West Coast swings.
Well, there you have it. That's our West Coast awards. Patrick will get those in the mail if you were lucky enough to take one home. So be looking out for that in the next couple of weeks. We are officially moving away from the West Coast. We're going to dive into some PGA National, course layout, design, holes. Johnson's going to give us the breakdown as we officially move on to Florida. That's coming up after the break. We are back. Golf on CBS show. Shane Bacon, Patrick McDonald, Johnson Wagner. Fellas, we are officially on to Florida. And Johnson, I want to get kind of your take on Florida golf in general, because obviously the upcoming schedule, we got Cognizant this week, API, Players, Valspar, going to be spending a lot of time kind of in Gator country, if you will. What changes from these players as they move from the West Coast to the East Coast? Is this like a wedge? Do they change wedges? What's the mentality? Like, what's the difference in Florida golf versus what they see early in the season?
Well, the biggest thing is the greens, going from mostly Poana out west to Bermuda or overseeded Bermuda, my favorite and a lot of players' favorite surfaces because they roll so true. It's easy to read the grain. So a lot of guys on the West Coast will add loft to their putters on Poana so it gets on top and rolls a little better. So if there's any putter change, they would take some loft off. But when you look at these four venues, they're all overseeded. At least the fairways and the rough is. So as far as wedges are concerned, it's not that big of a difference. You may see a little bit softer sand in Florida. So if a player's going to change a 60, they would add a little bit more bounce to allow for that club to come out of the softer sand a little bit easier. But as far as equipment goes, guys don't really change much, but it's just, you said it earlier, it's the amount of water that you have in Florida. You play Riviera where, yes, there's some washes, but there's no actual actual water on the golf course. And that's probably the biggest thing, is figuring out how strategically to lay up on holes where you're going to take your chances.
Patrick, I know you mentioned kind of being an old soul in terms of what time you like to go to bed, and you like the fact that golf's moving kind of East Coast time zone. Where does this fit in terms of kind of where your interest really starts to go up? I mean, we talk so much about how much we love the West Coast. Where does that Florida swing fit, not just in your kind of day-to-day now doing this for a living, but when you were younger and you were just simply a golf fan?
Well, to continue to be on my old man soapbox, I do want to ask Johnson something about the overseed at PGA National and what happened to my beautiful boy with the bear trap just having no bite this day and age with the overseed. How does that affect the play?
Well, the overseed, it definitely, when I first started playing, 07 was the first year at PGA National. That was my rookie year on the PGA Tour. It was always an overseeded 4 to 5 inch rough. The last couple of years, they've had the rough cut way down. And it was a strategy from Cognizant and the PGA Tour to try to bring some players back to this event, because everybody complained about how hard it was. This year, there is more rough back on this golf course, and it is going to be more of a traditional PGA National. I know we don't have the field that we would all want, as it's sandwiched in between 2 signature events on either side, but it is going to be more of the PGA National carnage that we like to see. We're not going to see any 59s like we saw to Jake Knapp last year.
Okay, good.
Johnson, is there a course that the players don't complain about? I mean, I just feel like if it's too easy, you get complaining. If it's too hard, there's complaining. I feel like maybe it's like trying to get a country club membership to agree on something, right? It's impossible to do that as well. Like, is there a golf course you feel like outside maybe of Augusta National the players don't complain about?
Oh, they complain about Augusta National plenty, Shane. Don't fool
away from the mics.
They just exactly. There's not a single golf course. I think Riviera may be one of the closest, but a lot of people complain about the Poa annua Greens. A lot of people complain about the 10th hole. There's just no way to get a group of 100 or 123 this week prima donna professional golfers to not complain about something. And I can say that because I'm one of them.
Were you a complainer? Like, were you a guy that would complain about the courses, or it seems like you're pretty even kill, like whatever they're throwing at me, I'll take?
The only place I can remember complaining about is TPC, Louisiana, because the fairways were so grainy that I would just stub chips all the time. But that's about it.
That's the spot. Patrick, going back to you in terms of the Florida swing and just like where your interest lies as we get kind of set for the next 4 weeks.
I like seeing these guys get punched in the face. If you saw like the winning scores through the first month of the season, like Goddard won at 16 under twice, and then it was stuff in the 20s. And so you have some real golf courses now. Johnson said PGA National is going to look more like the PGA National of old. You look at last year, I think the average was 2 under per round. There were, from 06 to 23, only 11 golfers shot 10 under or better at this golf tournament. Last year alone, there was 38 of them. Obviously, they changed the par 2. Number 10 is an easy par 5. But then you go into Bay Hill. I know the architecture people may not love that golf course, but it gives us something different as viewers. Par is going to be a good score there. We're going to see guys fall on their face on the greens because it's so shiny and so slick, that Bermuda at Bay Hill. And so I enjoy it a lot, just given it's something different from what we saw on the West Coast.
Yeah, and I think Sawgrass probably gets slept on a bit at times. The fact that it's so interesting, the back nine is so fun. I think it's become, over the years, a fan favorite. I think it has a lot to do with what the tournament has done for itself in terms of interest on that back nine. But, I mean, Scottsdale and Sawgrass, to me, really stand out in terms of kind of that perfect back nine for tournament golf. And I love what you said about Bay Hill in terms of the toughness, the par threes, really difficult. There's a couple easy holes out there, but outside of that, finishing on a really tough par 4.
17.
Speaking of tough, yeah, 17, the par 3. I did PGA Tour Live back in the day, Johnson, to that back right hole location. On Sunday, it would just be 40 feet, birdie putt, 40 feet, birdie putt, left rough, left rough. Nobody could get it close there. But I want you, Johnson, to take us through the bear trap as we get set for this week in the Cognizant.
Well, selfishly, I have to say I don't have many records on the PGA Tour, but since the tournament moved to PGA National in 07, I have the most balls in the water in the bear trap. And I think there was at least as of last year. So I think, I don't know if anybody's catching me. And why that
Put a plaque down.
I think it's something like 35 balls in the water. It's a ridiculous number, but why that is because I played a draw my entire career, especially with my irons. And when you look at 15, you start the bear trap. It's this beautiful par three. It's sort of green sits out, water all down the right side. If you want to get anything close, you've got to hit a fade into that hole. 16, it's the same. It's a fade hole, water down the right off the tee. You got to fit it in that fairway with something less than driver, and then hit a mid to long iron up into a green that generally plays back into the wind. And then 17, when we first started playing there in '07, this hole was a 3-iron, 4-iron from something like 210 yards. The tournament has since started building over that tee box with the grandstand. But then again, it's a par three. The green sits from front left to back right. So if you hit a draw, you're effectively narrowing the size of that target to half of what someone who hits a fade into that green. Just a brutal stretch of golf. And I think I've single-handedly raised the water level out there a couple inches.
Yeah, Johnson, we need CBS to pick this event up sometime so you could just kind of go recreate some of your own shots around the bear trap, and just kind of show like this is the way not to play the par three. I'd like to see I'd like to get that involved a little bit. It's a tough golf course, and again, I mean, I thought Patrick brought it up well. There's a lot of toughness to kind of the Florida swing. It's nice that that's a little bit of the character of what we see in the next 4 weeks is tough. And I think that's something that you want players to embrace. You want the PGA Tour to embrace. And as we get closer and closer to the first major of the year, Patrick, I think toughness is something that probably sets these players up for what they're going to see at Augusta National and Shinnecock and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've seen a lot of guys who've played well at Bay Hill in particular and TPC Sawgrass these last couple of years carry that into the first major championship of the season. Obviously, Rory won the Players and then the Masters in 25. Scotty Scheffler did the same there in 2024. So I think there's definitely something to that, given kind of how good shots are rewarded and bad shots are penalized at that swing. It's almost overly emphasized during the Florida swing, I feel like. I remember in 24 when Rory was trying, iteration 3000 of how to play into Augusta National, and he really ramped up his schedule. And he played the Honda Classic, the Cognizant Classic, and I think he found every body of water. He put like a double bogey on the card every single 9 he played. And it just shows, like, if you're slightly off and the wind's picking up and it's whipping and it's a little crispy out there, it's a lot of fun to view for us golf fans.
And Johnson, you kind of look at the players in the field this week. I mean, nobody in the top 10 is playing, but I mean, I think one of the cool things about the 2026 PGA Tour season is you're going to see Brooks Koepka maybe at some of these non-signature, non-major events because he's going to want to play. I think probably it's a little bit of what he agreed to do in terms of playing certain PGA Tour events. It's going to be nice to have a big name like Brooks in the field. I'll be very interested to see what Brooks does after a couple of starts out on the PGA Tour.
Well, he's certainly going to be the crowd favorite out there this week. He's going to have big galleries. Everybody's going to be rooting for him. Also, I think the timing of him and the PGA Tour announcing where his $5 million charitable dollars is going, it was announced just yesterday or today. That was great timing. But I want to get back to something Patrick said. This is the best time of year to play golf in South Florida or in Florida in general. And I think that's why we love the Florida swing so much. March is amazing in Florida. And I think when you look at the West Coast as we finished up there, I wouldn't say that LA, Pebble, and San Diego are the best times of year to play there. Phoenix in the desert, yes. And with all this talk about the PGA Tour changing the infrastructure of the schedule, it sure would be nice to see Riv and Pebble and Torrey, that are all 3 U.S. Open and major championship venues, play more like we want to see them and not these soft sort of dart fest iron shows that we get this time of year on the West Coast.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point that you make there, Johnson, because, when you start to kind of, split up the country, right? You think about the Northeast, typically late in the summer is the best time to play golf up there. Not typically when you see a lot of the events up in the Northeast, right? You think about where the Tour Championship wraps up. Like Atlanta's tough in August, right? In September. Like it's a tough spot to be when it's 105 degrees and kind of sopping wet and raining every day. So to kind of factor in that as you lay out a schedule, and it feels like that's a big part of what what they're looking at for next year or the year after is not just what's best for the PGA Tour, but what's best for the region, the area, the golf courses, the players to be tested, to be playing these places. It's way more exciting when you get an opportunity to crack to get a crack at Riviera and have it play the way it's supposed to play, because all of us have played golf in areas where it's crispy and firm, and it makes a big difference than when you play somewhere that's soft and wet. Patrick, I mean, I remember playing Aaron Hills to preview the 2017 US Open, and it was like really wet, really soft. I'm like, this isn't how they're going to see it in the summer. Now, it did play a little bit more like that than I think they wanted it to. But I mean, playing these places the way they were designed to play is important. And really, the Open Championship is one of the few majors we really get to see that played out the way it should be.
The actual yardage for you was probably like 9,000 yards with how wet Aaron Hills was, I'm sure.
All the way back, brutal.
But even just like look at the PGA Championship and them picking the venues before they moved the calendar and what that championship has really turned into. It's just a drive fest for me. You have to be so good off the tee in PGA Championships to even contend because of where they've gone, like how Oak Hill was and how cold that was over the weekend. And I think an added thing the PGA Tour wants, it seems like everyone's trying to speak this into existence, this West Coast playoff stretch, is the prime time slot as well, kind of at the end of the summer, something they don't have right now. So I'm with you. I think the playoffs need to move because this year alone, Memphis, Baltimore, Atlanta in August, that is just rude to these guys. In Caves Valley, no less, which is like walking, pretty similar to like Kapalua or Augusta National with how hilly that golf course is. So they did them no favors this year, and hopefully there's a change coming soon.
I'm sweating now just thinking about that, by the way, for the player, pre-sweating for the players out there and the caddies especially. That will be interesting. All right, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into Cognizant when we get back. We're going to give our picks, who's going to win, who's not going to win. Very different names, I'd say, on this list than what we've seen in previous weeks. We are back and wrapping up the show with our picks this week at the Cognizant. Ryan Gerard, highest ranked player in the field, 26th in the world. Shane Lowry, your betting favorite at 14-1. Koepka, as we mentioned, in the field as well. Patrick, I'm going to let you kick us off. I feel like we need kind of a reset with our picks. I don't think we've done great. I don't think we've done terrible, but I'm not sure we've nailed one to this point. Who do you feel like is going to win or can win this week?
I think it's good Scotty's not in the field. He was casting too big of a shadow.
Or Xander.
Okay. I mean, I think he still has a chance this week. He might add himself late with how he's been playing. So I have to look at my list here for who can win. Ryan Gerard can win, playing some great golf, lives in the area too. Haotong Li. I think some of these DP World Tour guys are going to start get going, more comfortable now. We saw that with Marco Penge last week. Lee played some really, really good golf on the West Coast as well. He's won 4 times on the DP World Tour throughout his career. And then Michael Brennan, big hitter, probably not a great statistical fit on paper, but I just like this guy's upside in general. And I think his play in Phoenix was a lot better than the result.
Very, very impressive, man. I mean, I know we were so bummed to miss him out on the Korn Ferry Tour this season when he got the win late and obviously jumped right to the PGA Tour. But the kid is the real deal. Johnson, you've kind of got a little bit of crossover there as well with your picks.
Yeah, Ryan Gerard for sure. He finished 4th here back in 2023 as a non-member, which catapulted him into Puerto Rico and sort of is how he got his non-member temporary membership, which was awesome. And then I've got Eric Cole. Eric Cole's a local guy. His first start here in 23, lost in the playoff, has been a little bit suspect the last couple of years. And then I've got Daniel Berger, another guy that lives in the area, Florida boy, always a factor around this golf course.
Johnson, since we've added you and moved to TV for this show, Patrick used to just make these up on the fly. So the fact that he actually writes them down and has them like noted, I'm very impressed by. I know you're a little bit more prep, but Patrick, I know we've kind of graduated to this. I'm very proud and impressed by you. I got Shane Lowry. I think he's got a really good chance to win this week. As we mentioned, he's the betting favorite. So that's a little lame to pick him, but I like him this week. Johnny Kiefer, I'd like to see something out of him. Had such a great year last year, obviously on the Korn Ferry Tour. And then a guy, AJ Ewart, I like this week. He was the the medalist, won Q School in December, had kind of a sneaky good start to his season this year on the PGA Tour, drives it really, really solidly, and I think he'll do well around this level of golf course. Who's not going to win, Johnson?
I just don't see Brooks Koepka winning quite yet. I don't think he's ready. He needs a few more starts. I do still think he's going to snap off a win somewhere this year on the PGA Tour. Sorry to say this to you, Patrick. Michael Brennan's not winning this week. I love his game. I thought he was going to really take off starting this year. Maybe a little bit of rumor there could be a caddy change coming up as well, which is always concerning for me. And then Nick Dunlap, just haven't seen the consistency out of him yet. He's going to be a guy that you're going to continue to hear me say can't win just because he's just not driving it like he should be.
The battle of the Brennan pick right there. Patrick, who do you feel like's not winning?
You know, we're comfortable with this assumed caddy change, but we don't like to get involved with rumors out there like Johnson, clearly. I will say, Johnson, the more research I've put into these picks, unfortunately, they have gotten worse and worse. So maybe I do need to go off the rip a little more. As for who can't win, Shane Lowry, you know, he's come so close these last handful of years, but for some reason down the stretch, it just hasn't happened for him. Keith Mitchell's a previous winner here, but I think he's kind of eyeing Smiley's happy hour instead. And then I'm going with Brooks Koepka too, for all the reasons Johnson liked that one. Johnson laid out for BK. I don't think he's quite there yet.
Yeah, somebody send this clip to Brooks Koepka or his team, because I'm also picking him not to win. So that's 3 for 3 on us not feeling like he's got a chance to win this week. A couple overlaps there with Johnson. So I'll also throw Andrew Putnam on there. The only reason I'm putting Putnam on the list is I follow Andrew on Instagram. I worked with him last year doing our podcast. He looked like he just had an awesome family vacation. And I just don't know if he's in the right mindset following like a great beach vacation with the fam to dial right back in and play this level of golf at this golf course. I think it might take him a week or two to get back to playing some awesome golf. This is, by the way, the deep level of analysis you get on the show. Fellas, who is going to win? Patrick, throw us your main pick.
It's going to be Hao Tong Lee, but I do think it's Sam Ryder season too. Keep an eye out for him.
Didn't even have him in your can win picks. See, this is what he does, Johnson. Who do you feel like's winning?
I got to go with Ryan Gerard, and I can't believe when I made this pick, I didn't realize he was the top-ranked player in the field. And then I looked at the PGA Tour power rankings. He's number 1 there, too. So a little bit embarrassed. I keep taking chalk every week, but I like Ryan Gerard this week.
Yeah, you guys have been leaning heavily on Scotty. Scotty's still not getting it done. It is wild that we keep asking the questions of what's wrong with Scotty, and he has a win, 2 top 3s and just missing out on the top 10. I mean, I think he's going to be okay. I'm going AJ Ewert to win this week. I think this is a week that you can go off the board a little bit. I'm leaning into Ewert land. I covered him during that final round of Q School, and he was really impressive in Florida on a very Florida level golf course that reminds me a little bit of what they'll look at this week. So who knows? Maybe AJ Ewert gets it done and picks up the biggest win of his career. Of course, you can watch our show every Tuesday at noon Eastern. It's also on the YouTubes if you want to clip it and send it to Brooks Koepka, especially that last part where we all three said he's not going to win. Fellas, appreciate the time just to look at the upcoming PGA Tour schedule as we all get set for a little bit of Florida in our lives.